Yesterday, I have introduced the first three parts of the empirical studies, and today I have booked an empty room, so I have plenty of time to introduce the complex and dynamic feature of foreign language enjoyment. And after introducing this part, I will move to another essay, which I have already mentioned yesterday, the dynamic interactions in foreign language classroom anxiety and foreign language enjoyment of pupils aged 12 and 18, a pseudo-longitudinal investigation written by Jean-Marc Dowell and his daughter Livia Dowell. Okay, let's begin. So, foreign language enjoyment as a complex and dynamic construct. In this part, the author again cited the research done by Professor Dowell and said he implemented a dynamic approach to investigate changes in foreign language enjoyment, which is the next article that I will introduce today and probably in the following days. So based on this article, it is obvious that researchers didn't really track the development of a certain age group, but compare different age groups and regard the pupils aged 18 as the grown version of the pupil aged 12. So this is why, this is how I understand pseudo, because it is not tracking a single age group as they grow up, as the comparison of different age groups as a kind of a pseudo-longitudinal investigation. So based on this article, we can see that the limitations, because, for example, students aged 18 doesn't necessarily mean students aged 12 will become them 6 years later. So how to capture the dynamic feature of foreign language enjoyment as students get older is something that probably future research need to do or need to focus on. And moreover, not only this kind of longitudinal investigations, I think foreign language enjoyment is also a kind of fluctuating concept which can have moment-to-moment changes. For example, as you can see in the foreign language enjoyment scale, or the Chinese version of that, you can see there are 11 items which was designed by Professor Dowell and revised and translated by Professor Li Chengchen. So you can see from that scale that short-term investigation can lead to higher level of foreign language enjoyment, because you can see such interventions can have a strong impact on several items of that scale. Therefore, if you use that questionnaire or that scale to measure foreign language enjoyment, then you will definitely see the fluctuating, or you can see the fluctuation of that concept in a very short period of time. So dynamic doesn't necessarily mean that FLE will change over, say, over the course of time, or will change as students grow older, but it can also mean that in a classroom, in an English class, FLE will fluctuate or undergo moment-to-moment changes only in just 40 minutes or so. I mean, in a single English class. So how to capture that dynamic feature? I mean, that kind of micro-level dynamic is something that we need to further explore in the future. And in light of this fact, I have personally designed a kind of methodology which use the audible foreign language enjoyment signals to capture the immediate fluctuations of foreign language enjoyment in the classroom. And we have already conducted this kind of experiment in the rural context in China, and we have a total of more than 800 students as our samples, and after cleaning our data, finally we have more than 700 students which are qualified for further data analysis. And now I'm working on this essay. And probably I think I will finish this essay in let's say, a month and a half. So probably I think this methodology can contribute to the development of FLE, which I think is a dynamic construct that can fluctuate in a very, very short period of time. For example, when you raise your hand to answer the question, and you have a correct answer, and the teacher praises you, and your peers also encouraged you, and you feel the value of yourself. You feel you have understood the knowledge. I think in that kind of circumstance, then you will feel a sense of enjoyment. Then how to capture that is a very important issue. And later I will introduce my own essay, but I firstly need to complete the writing process. And well, this is the dynamic interactions. And then the author listed several authors in parallel, and those include Professor Li Chengchen and Professor Elahi Shirvan. Elahi Shirvan. I'm very sorry for my poor pronunciation. Because I don't think this is like a native English or American name. So it's Elahi Shirvan. Shirvan, all right. I will try to remember your esteemed name. I'm very sorry for my poor pronunciation. Professor Shirvan, okay. So Professor Shirvan employed an ecological momentary evaluation approach, which is something just like my personal studies, because it's Professor Shirvan tried to capture the moment or momentary fluctuations of FLE. So here is a new concept. What is ecological momentary evaluation approach? Or what is ecological momentary assessment, which is known as EMA? There are, I think, three different keywords, or two keywords. The first is ecological. Ecological, basically, you can understand it as doing an experimental research in a natural context. For example, in the real English teaching classrooms instead of in a laboratory. And this is ecological. And the momentary is the second keyword. Momentary means it tries to capture the fluctuating features instead of the static feature of FLE. So here is a much more precise definition given by artificial intelligence. So EMA, or ecological momentary assessment, is a dynamic in situ methodology. In situ means in the situation methodology, involving repeated real-time measurement of individuals' thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and contextual experiences as they occur in their natural, everyday environment. Just like what I've said, my personal explanation probably is easier to understand. Therefore, we can see that ecological momentary assessment is a commonly used approach to examine the dynamic feature of FLE and other emotions. However, it certainly has some limitations, and this can be the gap as well as the theoretical background or foundation for the design of my own research, which includes the FLE's audible signals. Because those signals are really similar to the designing principle of ecological momentary assessment, because we use that kind of signal in the real English classes instead of in the laboratories, and we use that to capture the momentary changes instead of the static feature or the trait of the learners. So this can be a kind of a theoretical background for me, or theoretical foundation for me. Let me see, what's the next part? Okay, so at last, the author cited the seminal study conducted by Dewell again. It is said that the teacher's use of the target language and the student's perception of the teacher can lead to a greater level of foreign language enjoyment. So, as you can see here, the author mentioned another variable, which is teacher-centered variables. So in my own research, I designed the PRTB, peer relatable teaching behaviors, which also focused on teachers. I mean, teachers can absolutely have a very, very strong influence on students. For example, take me as an example. I mean, when I was in the junior high school, in grade 8, I mean, I met a very, very great teacher, and she taught me how to spell, and based on the pronunciation, because in the primary school or in the 7th grade of my junior high school, I generally didn't know the way of remembering words. And at that time, I even participated in some extracurricular classes not to further improve my English speaking, but to make sure that I won't fail that English examination. So you can see that compared with that time, now I can speak English very fluently and relatively accurately. So I think the first mentor that I've met was that teacher who really, really helped me, and also really, really helped me to form a kind of interest or passion to the second language. So I think teachers are very, very important. So that's why in my today's research, in my own research, I mean, I also focused on teacher-centered variables to have an impact on learners' FLE. So I have already finished this part of the essay, and the last part, or the conclusion, or this is the common parts that we will see in most essays, because this is the suggestion for future research. So the author listed 3 different kind of directions. The first is teachers' influence on FLE, which I have already said that in my own research, I also focused on this part. And the second is the relationship between FLE and different language skills. Yes. Well, but in my own research, I haven't covered this part. And the third direction is the necessity to move toward dynamic research approaches that contribute to the changing nature of language learning concepts. Well, this is also the thing that I have focused on in my own research. So you can see that among those 3 directions, in that single essay of myself, I have already covered 2 of them. So I think my research really, really is valuable, at least. And I will try my best to make it publish. Okay, so this is the end of this essay, and we will move to the next one. The next one is the dynamic interactions in foreign language classroom anxiety and foreign language enjoyment of pupils aged 12 and 18, a pseudo-longitudinal investigation. And this is the essay that I have introduced previously. And also in this essay, I will retell the learner's logic, the author's logic, and also I'll introduce some key figures, some preeminent scholars, and also their main academic contributions or the core models that they have proposed and validated. So based on my notes, I know that this is also a very, very important essay, and I will also introduce many preeminent scholars, including Professor Krashen, Professor Horowitz, and there are a lot of big names. So this is the end of today's program, and this is MSY's research notes. And I'm very looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Good night.